I'm Debbie Ochs, and I grew up here in Wichita.
Pete Ochs, grew up in Hoisington, Kansas, a small farming community a couple hours from Wichita. We have been married 35 years.
I'm an entrepreneur by birth, probably, and I grew up in a farming family, so we were used to doing lots of things for ourselves, and I think that probably carried through into the life that I now live. Started out in the commercial banking business and spent 8 years doing that. Then I left that and started an investment banking company, which we really acted as the middleman in deal situations. After 8 or 10 years in the investment banking business, we began to buy a deal or two. And so over the last 20 or 30 years, we've purchased a company here, there. Our approach is to grow it, treat our employees fairly, serve them well, run the business with excellence, and be a good steward of the resources God's given us.
Okay, let's go. Hold on here. Come on.
After a number of years, probably 10 years, owning our own business, we had become more financially successful than I ever thought I would. I began to realize that while I had that financial success, I still wasn't satisfied. Deb and I both grew up in homes that were very generous, so we understood generosity from a very early age. When we became married, we wanted to carry that on. That was probably in our DNA, generosity. But I think for the first few years of our lives, we were really, I would say I was a 90-10 guy. I wanted to make a lot of money so that my 10% to God was a big number. Well, you can imagine what I had planned for the 90%. And thanks to a couple of older mentors that came alongside of me and really guided me along, they opened my eyes up to this whole concept of stewardship. It really means we're just the managers. We don't really own anything. So when you understand that, it puts a whole new spin and a whole new context on how you live life.
I think we began to learn these concepts and came home and applied them to our lives. We experienced the joy of giving.
So this journey for us has probably been we're into it 15 or 20 years. And a number of years ago, of course, that glaring question always comes up, how much is enough? If I'm really the steward, how much is enough? It was interesting because we were fortunate enough to meet some other entrepreneurs who were struggling with the same issues. We've just agreed that we understand the accountability piece is very important. And we all understand that money is probably could be our biggest downfall. There are actually guys in the group that will allow others of us to set their salary. And maybe that's too strong a word, but that we give them strong guidance on what we think is an appropriate lifestyle. And many of them could live way beyond those numbers, but we've just chosen to live at that range. Several years ago, we were in an acquisition mode and we came on an opportunity to build industrial seating. It had some of the same technology we were using in our other business, so we thought it would be a good fit. And it's a fairly straightforward process and somewhat labor intensive. This analogy that you should have a generous life, and life is an acrostic, L-I-F-E. It stands for you should be generous with your labor, you should be generous with your influence, you should be generous with your financial resources, and you should be generous with your expertise. When we understood that, I began to look at our businesses and say, these are resources that God has given us, and how can we use them not only to create treasure, but to create social capital and spiritual capital. God really convicted me that generosity is much more than just writing a check.
This was a new thing for us. We had never had a business in a prison before.
The first time I went to the prison and heard those gates slam behind me, your heart skips a beat. You're like, this is for real.
It's an unusual bunch of guys or inmates that we have working for us at the prison. They've committed the worst crimes known to society.
I ended up being an accomplice to taking someone's life.
I took someone's life who didn't deserve to be taken.
I have a life sentence.
The jury convicted me of second-degree murder intentional, so I got 13 years, and I've done 6 of it so far.
It came to us that we needed a big vision for these guys to grab onto. The vision we cast for them was this: we want to have the best prison in the United States of America. They looked at me like I was some kind of a man from outer space.
We thought he was crazy. Like, this guy, he's, at first, that's what we thought,
Every couple of weeks we have what we call a life lesson. It may be how to be a good father. It may be lessons on finance. It's lessons on relationships. In one of our life lessons, we presented this whole concept of generosity and challenged them that we would match dollar for dollar any dollar that they gave to one of a number of charities, and we gave them a list. It was amazing the amount of monies that these prisoners gave to charity, and what was probably even more fun is most of the charities that they gave to were charities that existed to help the victims of the crime that they committed.
Not too long ago, he was in our living area. I've never seen a volunteer do anything like that. He's come to church with us. He's come to banquets that we've had. He's very involved, and you can tell that he's invested.
Seeing the motivation they have to help you out, it makes you want to help other people out.
So he's proving to me and to the rest of us that, man, if you set your heart to something, if you really fight for it, and if you're focused on it, it can happen.
Pete, I believe that he has a desire to see us succeed.
And the most important thing I've learned through this journey of generosity is the component of faith.
It's all out of gratitude, and it all began with what Christ did for us.